I'm Ada, and this is Bila, and we'll be introducing Libby Mitchell. She's going to be running for governor as a Democrat clean election candidate. She really focuses a lot on job creation, most importantly green job creation in Maine. She says that we need to move on from a state that's, instead of just working in factories and stuff, but more educated workforce. She's a former teacher. She's a big supporter of Head Start programs and early childhood education, right on up through training students for jobs and high schools.
Yeah. I would say she is a politician, so be careful. But Libby has broken ground for women all across the country. She was the first female to serve as both Speaker of the House and President of the Senate. So that's quite an achievement. And yeah, on top of that, she's a very invigorating and inspiring candidate.
And the first woman governor of Maine.
Let's see.
Libby Mitchell.
Libby Mitchell.
Energetic crowd. My good friend Steve Rowe did a wonderful job answering lots of questions. So I have a head start because I know some of the things that you've asked. But you have sat here, and Mr. Saviello is sort of a cruel taskmaster to make you stay in class so long. But I do appreciate your being here and your sharing this time with me. I wanted just one correction. I'm delighted that we've imported a student from Vermont. So in addition to exporting students, we import them. And that needs to be a very, very important piece of our thinking about higher education. The first business is important only in that as you are choosing your next governor, you're also thinking about what your vision is, what you want to get done, and who can accomplish it. So the piece about, I was not, I must say, not the first woman president of the Senate. However, I am the only woman in the country who has been both. And again, that's not a reason to elect somebody governor, but it gives you a little bit about my background because you're elected by your peers, because they're looking for somebody who can get the job done. And I had that privilege. And Steve also had the privilege of being speaker. And it's a high honor and a lot of trouble sometimes, isn't it, Steve? Steve started at a place where I'd like to start as well. When I first signed up to run for governor, everybody said, "Oh, congratulations." And I thought, what a strange thing to say, to sign my name up. I haven't even qualified yet. But I understand it now. I understand it more now than I did when I made this decision the late part of the summer. They say congratulations because you have a rare opportunity to go around the state of Maine, to listen and to learn and to try to be a problem solver. The reason being leaders and the legislature is important. You're not elected a leader unless you know the districts from which the other senators and representatives come from. I'm often asked, is this your first time in Farmington? Of course not. I've been here many, many times. First time in Fort Kent? Of course not. I have many legislators who serve in Aroostook County. You may have noticed that a Northern Maine legislator was so frustrated with the lack of understanding of the people of Southern Maine, of Northern Maine, he is planning to file a bill which will make Southern Maine, Northern Massachusetts, and the rest of Maine is going to go it alone. And I told him to be very careful what he wished for, because sometimes Southern Maine says, go ahead, we won't have to support you anymore. But at any rate, there is a division from time to time between Northern and Southern Maine, or between Western Maine, and you have issues. But the one thing we all have in common is we love this state. Now, I did not have the good fortune of being born in Maine. I came here just as quickly as I could, and some say my mother was somewhere else at the time, and I wanted to be with her. But my husband and I moved here in 1971. He came to work for then Governor Ken Curtis. We came here to stay for 2 years. 2 years. I still live in the same 1840s farmhouse in Vassalboro, Maine, that we settled in, and we raised 4 kids here. And we've had a lot of talk about kids coming and going. But as I look at somebody who once lived in Vassalboro, Maine, Margaret Westcott, who used to be not so famous until she had that fancy son who went off and won us some gold medals. But I want to say something about Margaret. Margaret's a gold medal winner in her own right. She is a community leader, she is a dancer, and Seth wouldn't be half that good if she had not been such a good dancer. And she explained to me he was in her dance troupe when he was younger. I want to tell her something else. Through my young family, they're not young, my young adult children, they know friends of Seth. And so they invited us up to his house. And I haven't seen Seth since he was very, very small. And of course, this is a guy who's going to the Olympics, and you know, he's not going to want to talk to me, but I get to his house, he's actually shoveling his own wall. This is the famous Seth Westcott. He's actually hammering nails, because when they had the party, the cabinets had not been built, and so boards were brought in. But more importantly was his attitude toward everybody in the room. It didn't matter who you were, if you were young or old, Seth would take time to talk to you. He posed endlessly. You must hate having his picture taken. But he would have his picture taken with you. He would sign the kids' helmets. But I talk about that because there's a young man who could be anywhere in the world who chose to train at Sugarloaf, not in Colorado, not in Utah, not anywhere else. And why? Because he has Maine roots. He loves Maine. And when he came back and he got all the awards, I mean, I haven't seen him since he was really, really famous. But when he came back, he kept talking about how proud he was to be from Maine. Not just America, but he was proud to be from Maine. And it is that spirit that makes me want to run for governor. And it's that spirit that makes me understand why people said congratulations. But I want to talk a little further. I am currently serving in the Maine Senate as president. That's where you should send your condolences, because I'm trying to balance a budget. I'm trying to deal with all your worries about how much money is coming to UMaine Farmington and all the other schools, and try to do it fairly. And I'm trying to do it in a way that invests in our future, but deals with the budget in hard times when you can't spend as much as you have. If you don't have it, you can't spend it. We have a constitutional requirement to balance our budget, but we try to do it in a fair way. Now, the presiding officer of the House is Hannah Pingree. Maine is a wonderful little state. Her mother is the 1st District Congresswoman, and her mother's chief of staff is my daughter-in-law. So around we go. So don't say anything, because you're probably related to the person next to you, and maybe say we're 6 cousins removed or whatever. But my point is, working with Hannah Pingree, who is young enough to be my daughter, I also know a lot about I love these signs up here, intergenerational, interdependent, or whatever, because I learned from Hannah, and Hannah learned from my experience. And together, last session, we got it right. Unlike Washington, we passed a 2/3 budget, and you might get us mixed up with Washington, but please don't. We balanced our budget, and yes, people took cuts, but we're also recognizing the need to fight and live another day.